The Land of Kim by Jeffrey Drum. Now I want to walk through how that's possible. Now, if you go out into the desert and you have a simple capacitor, say a Tesla capacitor where he had a jar with salt water on the inside and aluminum foil wrapped the outside, you can basically walk out there with that and the top will start sparking to the side because it's being charged and released. You should do the same thing if you walk and step on top of the pyramid. Now, if we take that in consideration and we look at the Egyptian temples as gigantic Van de Graaff generators collecting the wind and charging capacitors within them. The bottom capacitors would electrolyze the water, and there's evidence of bleach, hydrochloric acid, H2SO4, all in the main pyramid. And the sarcophagi in the king's chamber would be the spark that lit the nitrogen or hydrogen gas to create the explosion that would shake the pyramid and would release the wireless electrical energy created by the piezoelectric effect. That's basically the quartz stones and the granite that is the pyramid is piezoelectric. It's designed like a circuit. It would function and it would work correctly. And that gives evidence of how it's possible that they could generate hydrochloric acid, H2SO4, as well as if we look at the next pyramid where they generated ammonia, you can electrolyze urine or urea and get ammonia. They could have been doing that. And there's also the step pyramid where they could have been taking feces of animals, humans, to place in this pyramid to generate methane, which is that is a methane plant. It still produces methane to this day. And we know from the Aztecs that feces was worth money. They used it as currency in the Aztec culture and such. So we have a plausibility of how these chemicals were synthesized using electricity. This gives rise to them having electricity. They had methane, which would have been the blue flame, the eternal flame, as well as given reason why there was no carbon marks left from fires, because they were using methane gas and most logically light bulbs via the similarities between the pyramids and Wardenclyffe Tower being wireless generated electricity. We also have the evidence of the obelisks following the ley lines and every so often there's another one, and they all go all the way to and I mean, this gives rise to the machines of ancient times. There's a dude, I can't pronounce his name, but he has a really good YouTube channel where he describes the ancient temples as machines. This wind and wireless electricity, as well as following the ley lines to India from Egypt, makes that possible. And they have rotating cylinders in these ancient Indian temples that would, if powered by the static electricity, would rotate, and using the Zeldovich effect, basically it turned these rotating pillars into amplification systems, basically step down transformers for piezoelectric high voltage electricity. I thought that was very, very, very interesting, and just thought I'd share that. There's more, but if you look in my posts, there's a lot more information, more detailed via my conversation with Gemini, and it goes from the step pyramids all the way up to this. But I thought it was interesting that it is possible. I mean, just from the wind, and that also we have the links to the breath of life being an Egyptian. That's where they came up with the idea that the breath of life was just the wind blowing on the pyramid, charging the pyramid, and making it start. It was the starter. They were using atmospheric electricity, basically just in the dry atmosphere, static charges build up. The pyramids are in the middle of the fucking desert. Charge them right up, start them right up, they commit, and we have all the evidence of looting and stealing of the gold that was inside the pyramids that would be the capacitors inside. We also have the link to Moses and the Ark of the Covenant. And if you take the design and build that motherfucker and you set it in the middle of the desert, it will start sparking because it's a capacitor. It's just releasing the charge. That's all it's doing. High frequency. And that was the voice of God. And I mean, the breath of life charging a box and creating sparks. That would also create the wireless pulse. And there's there's a Knights of Templar video where he discusses a lot of the technology, and he discusses the snakes and specific ancient words describing copper, and copper snakes equals coils, and he had coils. Moses built coils or used snakes in the desert to heal people and stuff. And I mean, if we look at the Ark of the Covenant as a capacitor and being charged by the desert winds, the breath of life, it would create, he could simply create a pulse magnet that did these things. He could also separate the waters. I mean, and that with his staff by the power of the breath of God. And it all makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of simplicity to it. Because, I mean, basically the wind would blow on the pyramid and little particles of sand would rub on it, and friction creates static electricity. And then we have the electrolysis, and the static electricity would charge the bottom capacitor to create electrolysis, and the upper capacitor would be the spark gap. It's a gigantic Tesla coil. I mean, and there's rumors that Tesla got to look in the Vatican notes or the Vatican library. I don't know if it's true. It said that Tesla never went to Egypt, but I mean, a lot of his technology is based upon Egyptian tech. I mean, he even has that one little device that creates the cross and stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, man, but a lot of this stuff it's it's pretty interesting to me that, like, that would work. I mean, you could charge that up, and if you replace all the gold that was stolen from the pyramids and put it back into place, it would function this way. And I mean, Y-Files has a good episode on the land of Kim where he describes how the frequencies of the king's chamber is perfect for the hydrogen and everything fits. The missing piece is understanding the pyramid collecting wind and charging capacitors and creating electrolysis, which is just like you could take a 9-volt battery and put it in water and, well, salt water. That's why there's bleach, because it was salt water. I mean, and the bleach, this just adding salt to the water would create bleach and hydrochloric acid. They also had sulfuric acid. Not sure how they did that, but they could have done it with this same method and generated all these acids, the ammonia, all of it. It's very interesting. They could also have used the ammonia to create ammonia carbonate, which is documented in the other pyramid, the third pyramid, that they had ammonia carbonate. And Germans use that for cooking and stuff. It's for raising the dough and stuff. There's a lot of old cookie recipes using ammonia carbonate for such things. Either way, definitely some really interesting information to look into. If you add this to the land of Kim, and understand the electrolysis part of how they created the hydrogen, the oxygen, and the acids, it all starts to fit. And the wireless energy, it would have been created. And it's not that complicated at all. All right, guys. Thanks.